The blood on the hospital floor was still warm when Armin Halim realized his daughter might not wake up again, and the sun outside the window didn't care. It rose anyway, pale and indifferent, spilling light over a man who had already given everything he had left. Armin sat on a plastic chair that bit into his spine, his hands shaking as if they belonged to someone else. His shirt smelled of disinfectant and old sweat from the night shift he had just survived, and his eyes burned from staying open far too long. On the other side of the glass wall lay 6-year-old Noor Halim, her chest rising and falling in fragile, uneven breaths, tubes and wires making her look smaller than she already was. Just hours earlier, she had collapsed in their kitchen while he was tying his work boots. The doctors said it was severe anemia mixed with complications he could no longer pronounce, but he understood one thing clearly: treatment cost money, and money was something he did not have. If you're watching Ripple of Love and you believe in hope, compassion, and second chances, take a moment right now to like, comment, share, and subscribe. Stories like this exist because people still believe broken lives can heal. Armin's life had been shrinking for years. Once, he had dreams that stretched beyond survival. He used to sketch buildings in cheap notebooks, imagining himself as an architect, designing places where families could feel safe. That was before the accident. Before the twisted metal on a rain-soaked highway took his wife Samira away in a single breathless moment, leaving him with a toddler who cried through the night and a silence that never stopped echoing. Grief didn't arrive loudly for Armin, it crept in quietly, taking small things first: sleep, appetite, laughter, until one day he realized he was living only because someone else needed him to. The night job nobody wanted came 2 months earlier, offered by a logistics warehouse on the far edge of the city. 12-hour overnight shifts cleaning industrial machinery soaked in oil and chemical residue, no benefits, no questions asked. Men quit after a week, sometimes after a single night. Armin signed the contract without reading it. He needed the money for Noor's medicine, and desperation has a way of blinding even careful people. Every night, he scrubbed rust and grease under buzzing fluorescent lights, his hands cracking open, his lungs burning, while his mind replayed memories of Samira's smile and Noor's laugh like fragile films he was afraid to lose. Morning always found him exhausted, but that particular morning felt heavier. Noor was stabilized but not safe. The doctor spoke gently, explaining long-term treatment plans, using words like chronic and recurring. Armin nodded, pretending he understood how he would afford any of it. When he finally left the hospital, daylight pressed down on him with cruel brightness. The city was waking up, people buying coffee, complaining about traffic, living lives that felt impossibly distant from his own. Their apartment was small, paint peeling like tired skin, the air smelling faintly of damp concrete. Armin laid Noor on the bed and watched her sleep, her lashes trembling as if she were dreaming of something far away. He sat on the floor because he didn't trust his legs to hold him. That was when the knock came. It wasn't loud, but it carried weight, firm and deliberate. Armin froze. No one ever knocked on his door in the morning. Bills came in envelopes. Bad news arrived by phone. He opened the door slowly, expecting a landlord or a debt collector, and found a man standing in the hallway who looked entirely out of place. The stranger wore a simple coat, but it was tailored in a way Armin had only seen in magazines. His posture was calm, controlled, his eyes sharp yet burdened by something unseen. 2 other men stood a few steps behind him, silent, alert. The hallway suddenly felt smaller, poorer. Armin's first instinct was fear. His second was exhaustion so deep it dulled everything else. He listened as the man explained why he was there, how he had come personally after reviewing a report from the warehouse. Armin barely remembered what he had done differently that night, staying late to fix a jammed conveyor belt no one else wanted to touch, preventing a shutdown that would have cost millions. He had done it without asking for extra pay because leaving early meant losing hours he couldn't afford. The man's name was Karim Zavian, a name Armin had heard before, whispered on news channels, attached to words like empire and billionaire. But standing there, Karim didn't look triumphant. He looked tired in a different way, like someone who had won everything and still lost something essential. Kareem asked to come in. Armin hesitated, glancing at Noor's room, then stepped aside. The apartment revealed itself without mercy: bare cupboards, patched furniture, a framed photograph of Samira and baby Noor smiling into a future that never came. Kareem noticed everything. He noticed the medical papers on the table, the unpaid bills, the way Armin moved as if one wrong step might shatter him. What Kareem saw in Armin was not just a hard-working employee. He saw a reflection of a life he had once known and buried under success. Years ago, Kareem had grown up watching his own father work himself into illness, choosing pride over help, sacrifice over rest. That memory had followed him into boardrooms and penthouses, whispering questions no amount of wealth could silence. As the morning stretched on, something shifted between them, not an instant miracle, but a slow recognition. Kareem spoke of responsibility not as charity, but as a debt owed by those who had the power to change outcomes. Armin listened, his walls slowly cracking, tears threatening to spill because hope was more dangerous than despair. Hope asked you to believe again, and belief could break you. Before Kareem left, he promised nothing dramatic, nothing that sounded like a fairy tale. Just solutions. Just time. Just a chance for Noor to get the care she needed and for Armin to breathe without counting every second in currency. Days passed. Noor's color returned gradually, like dawn after a long night. Treatment began without Armin having to sign papers he didn't understand or make calls he feared. The warehouse job ended quietly, replaced by an offer that allowed Armin to work during the day, to sleep at night, to be present. It wasn't charity. It was recognition. Yet the greatest change wasn't financial. It was internal. Armin began to feel something unfamiliar growing inside him, not happiness, not yet, but stability. The constant terror eased its grip. He started sketching again, at first absent-mindedly, then with intention. Buildings returned to his imagination, shaped by everything he had lost and everything he still hoped to protect. As Noor laughed again, running clumsily through hospital corridors, Armin understood that life hadn't tested him to destroy him. It had tested him to reveal what kind of man he would become when stripped of everything else. And Kareem, watching from a distance, realized that success meant nothing if it didn't ripple outward, touching lives that would never appear in headlines. If this story has touched your heart so far, please take a moment near the end to support it. Your love keeps these stories alive. Before we reach the final moment, drop a comment and tell us what part of Armin's journey moved you the most. The final morning came quietly. Armin stood by the window as Noor slept peacefully, sunlight painting her face gold. The world outside hadn't changed much, cars still rushed, people still struggled, but something inside him had. He no longer felt invisible. He no longer felt alone. The night job nobody wanted had nearly broken him, but it also placed him in the path of a choice that changed everything. Not because a billionaire showed up at his door, but because kindness met resilience at exactly the moment it was needed. And sometimes, that is how lives are saved, not by miracles, but by people who choose to see each other in the daylight and decide that no one should have to carry the night alone.